Town with chemicals to get a railroad open. So they nuked the town to open the railroad. It's leaking into the water, it's in the air, and it's covering objects and homes of residents in the area, but it's all fine, right? Nothing to see here. What are you, a conspiracy theorist? But Erin Brockovich, yes, the same Erin Brockovich from the Julia Roberts movie, she's telling a different story of not just mismanagement by the railroad company, but also mismanagement from the government. Surprise, surprise. But the thing Erin Brockovich did, which I really love, is she brought receipts.
There is a governor's press release that was sent out on the 6th of February. And Norfolk, being in charge, chose to dig a hole. And they took the liquid hazardous materials from the train cars and dumped it down that hole. Now, that's just going to go straight to the aquifer. Then they lit it on fire, which created that huge black cloud that we've all seen. And what's concerning about that is because this is organic matter and carbon, and you've lit it on fire, you've created a dioxin problem that will fall out on roofs and soils and in the water. So it looks like a situation was mishandled on the upfront that created a worse scenario.
Mishandled on the upfront. Yes, it's the mismanagement that is making things worse. In fact, it's getting so much worse that other states are taking action. From the Post-Millennial, they report that Cincinnati is cutting off drinking water from the Ohio River due to the East Palestine derailment contamination. Not just Cincinnati, but WCPO ABC 9 in Cincinnati is reporting that northern Kentucky is also closing Ohio River water intakes as a precautionary measure for possible East Palestine contamination. Now, here's the crazy one. Even CNN is acknowledging the devastation. From Friday, CNN reported that East Palestine residents are worried that the rashes, headaches, and other symptoms are tied to chemicals from the train crash. But, I mean, come on, guys. This is an overreaction, right? Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is telling us everything is fine. It's all good.
There's no detection of contaminants.
No detection.
Either outside or in the specific homes where they've been asked to monitor.
Oh, thanks, Governor. So it's all safe. There's nothing to worry about. I said it a second ago, but it reminds me of how they spoke to the people of Flint, Michigan. Everything is fine. We're doing testing, and it's all safe and clear, and there's nothing to worry about. Renowned 9/11 attorney Michael Barash, whose law firm represented over 25,000 members of the 9/11 community, said that the EPA insisting that the air is safe sent shivers up his spine. Shivers up his spine, given that clients of his are dying every single day from the 9/11 toxic dust that they breathed in. And he warned residents of the affected areas to stay away and don't believe the EPA. I mean, we've seen this so many times. And here's the thing. These guys will just tell you that it's fine because if they told you it was dangerous, nobody would go down there to clean up the mess. So they're going to keep insisting that it's fine until it's cleaned up. And then we're going to see those commercials a few years later, like the Camp Lejeune water or mesothelioma. Have you been affected by this? Call the number. So it is safe. And it isn't safe. Got it. Just for everybody keeping score at home. But who is doing the testing that's telling us it's safe? Well, I'll tell you. It's being done by two companies. One is called Tetra Tech, and the other is the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health. See, guys, they have two companies doing the testing. It's all good because, one will do a test and the other one will do a test. And if they get the same results, then it's all good, right? No. Just kidding. Both of these companies have a history of falsifying their own test results. Not kidding. Let's start with Tetra Tech. From 2017, the San Francisco Gate reports that two were sentenced for falsifying reports on soil samples at Hunters Point. Two former supervisors involved in the cleanup of radioactive contaminants at the old Hunter Point's naval shipyard have pleaded guilty to falsifying soil samples in the widening environmental scandal that has engulfed San Francisco's largest redevelopment project. Those guilty pleas were made in 2017 as part of a criminal federal investigation that had been under seal until Wednesday from that report, which is from 2017. And both of those supervisors were sentenced to 8 months in prison. Are you kidding? That's who's doing the testing at the East Palestine train derailment, Tetra Tech, where two of their executives have already gone to jail for falsifying soil samples. But the other company's got to be good, right? I got some bad news for you. The other company, the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, well, they got a rap sheet as well. And their rap sheet has a local spin. And we're going to cover that next on Super Talk and 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono. 919 Super Talk 99.7.
All right, still working on some crashes left over from the morning commute. We've got in Wilson County, westbound 40, right before Lebanon Watertown, the right lane blocked. And then in Sumner County, 65 northbound, right there north of Millersville. An unannounced step into the war zone for President Biden. We'll tell you about it at 9:30. Oh, and what is Governor Ron DeSantis doing in New York? These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Governor DeSantis in New York, is he busing the migrants there himself now, Ken?
He is apparently touching a nerve with the mayor of New York City, too.
Well, he's causing some emergencies, right? Emergencies all over the place.
Well, he's talking about his successes, and they apparently don't like it up there.
Oh, I don't like it up there either. All right, so
you spent some time up there, didn't you?
Man, I was in Boston, so I really didn't like New York. But the Northeast in general, everybody's just so angry all the time. It's not for me. It's just not. And I have family listening right now from the Northeast and watching on Super Talk TV and
being angry at you for saying that.
I'm never going to move back, guys. So we were talking about the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. And again, I just want to reiterate, everything is fine, guys. Listen to Governor Mike DeWine. Hey, Mac, I need audio. Mac told me he was going to turn my audio on, and then he doesn't turn my audio on.
I know. I lied.
All right. So here's Governor Mike DeWine from Ohio, just reminding you, there's nothing to worry about.
There's no detection of contaminants, either outside or in the specific homes where they've been asked to monitor.
So there's no evidence because we have these testing companies who are they're monitoring, they're testing, and they're saying it's all good. But who is doing the testing? Well, I talked about it a second ago, and I'll just go over it again. There are two main companies doing the testing, and they're super solid, right? Nothing to worry about. Well, not really. The main companies are Tetra Tech and the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health. Now, Tetra Tech, they had two supervisors sent to prison for falsifying reports on soil samples at Hunters Point. It was the old Hunter Point Naval Shipyard in San Francisco. There was an environmental scandal that they basically falsified all the soil samples, and they went to jail for it. It's awesome. So that's who's doing some of the testing down in East Palestine, Ohio right now. Does that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, like the good guys are there to help? Me too. All right, so the other tester, the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, we personally know of their ineptitude in Middle Tennessee. And they've made high-profile mistakes in many spills. A New York Times article from 2010 outlines the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health's less than stellar record. Now, this is from 2010, the New York Times reported. Record of BP Gulf worker testing firm raises conflict of interest questions. After 1 million gallons of oil spilled on a Louisiana town in 2005, and here's our local one, after a flood of toxic coal ash smothered central Tennessee in 2008, and after defective Chinese drywall was plaguing Florida homeowners, the same firm was on the scene saying everything was fine. Now that the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health has a high-profile role in the Gulf spill, local community groups and other chemical testing veterans see a troubling pattern at work as BP continues to claim that the leaking oil has caused no significant exposures despite the hospitalization of several workers and the sparse release of test data. These observers of CTEH's work say that the firm has a vested interest in finding a clean bill of health to satisfy its corporate employer. Weird. So the two testing companies with a history of falsifying test results and misleading the public on matters of safety are on the scene at the closest toxic event we've had to a Chernobyl on American soil. And these two companies, Tetra Tech and the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, are saying it's all good, nothing to worry about. Can you believe that?
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Yeah, we've seen this one before, haven't we? The government comes in and says everything is fine when it's not. And these chemicals were still seeping into the soil as these testers tested things and said it was all good. And again, Erin Brockovich from the Julia Roberts movie, The Real Life Erin Brockovich, was on CBS over the weekend. And she says this isn't on the up and up. And again, she has receipts.
I am sitting here right now that just kind of came across my desk, a letter from the United States EPA dated February 10th, 2023 to Norfolk Southern Railroad. And it concerns me here a little because at the end of the first paragraph, they talk about cars containing vinyl chloride, the butyl acrylate, which has an additive that's benzene, and 3 other chemicals. And they go on to say that these chemicals are either known to have been or continue to be released to the air, surface soils, and surface water.
Did you catch that last part? She said, by February 10th, officials are saying everything is fine externally, but internally, they're acknowledging that these train cars were still leaking. But it's safe, right, guys? It's so safe. You just got to trust the government. That's all you got to do. Trust the government. Trust the plan.
To answer your question, is it safe? There is so much confusion and so much information. And then reading something like this, I would tell you, I would certainly feel uncomfortable and not safe.
I wouldn't feel safe either, and I would like to say it's definitely not safe. And I worry how much worse this truly is than the people in power are letting on. I mean, I just highlighted that the 2 companies doing testing have been in trouble several times for falsifying these test results because they don't care about your health and safety. They care about their corporate employers. Weird how that always seems to happen. So how can anyone in Ohio, anyone in America, trust the railroad company, the government, or the EPA at this point? It's record-breaking transparency, isn't it? Here's Aaron Brockovich.
Has the EPA been transparent about the initial testing data during a period when there may have been peak exposure?
Has the EPA been transparent? We'll talk about it next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Right now, the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Couple of summer-like days ahead this week, mixed with some off and on showers. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Stepping into a war zone, President Biden made an unannounced visit to Ukraine nearly a year after Russia invaded.
As the president spoke, in the east of the country, intense battles raging, especially around the key city of Bakhmut.
Unchecked aggression is a threat to all of us.
Russian forces are now engaged in intense street-to-street battles as the death toll rises on both sides.
Ian Panel reporting the president pledged another $500 million toward Ukraine's battle with with Russia. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaking at a rally this morning on Staten Island, touting his administration's accomplishments to support law enforcement ahead of a potential run for the White House.
We back the blue and we support their mission and we back it up with money and all kinds of stuff to be able to do it. The reason why you have what you have in some of these other jurisdictions is because they're putting woke ideology ahead of your safety.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
9:39 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, how are you? My name is Chris Hand. I'm filling in for Michael DelGirono, who has the day off, and I'm very excited to be with you today. I'm also very excited that I don't live in East Palestine, Ohio, because it's an absolute mess down there right now. We've been talking about the malfeasance that's going on in East Palestine, Ohio. And just to recoup, there are two companies on the ground. Just to recap, there are two testing companies on the ground that are doing the testing, and neither of them have a stellar record. Both of them have been busted for falsifying test results. Really quickly, the two companies, and then you can do your own research on them, Tetra Tech and the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health. Those are the companies that are on the ground doing testing. Now, Tetra Tech had two executives go to prison in 2017 for falsifying test results in a chemical spill at the old naval shipyard in San Francisco. And the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, well, we know them personally in Middle Tennessee because those are the guys that cleaned up the toxic coal ash spill in 2008. So the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, they have been busted several times, falsifying results and misleading the public on matters of safety. And now we have a Chernobyl-like event in East Palestine, Ohio. And who do we call? Well, just two companies that have a history of falsifying test results and bowing down to their corporate overlords so that way they can say things are clean and not have to worry about the consequences. Yep. I feel like it's the same script over and over and over. The government says it's fine. We know it's not. We wait a little bit, and then we get proved right?
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
It is a classic, and they keep replaying it over and over. Aaron Brockovich was on CBS over the weekend talking about the train spill, talking about the government actors that are on the ground, and whether or not they're being transparent in what's going on in East Palestine, Ohio, specifically the EPA.
Has the EPA been transparent about the initial testing data during a period when there may have been peak exposure?
Well, I'm going to question that now after what I just read about what was released and continues to be released. We have yet to see any raw, real data.
And my audio just froze up. So they have yet to see any raw, real data that has come out of East Palestine, Ohio from these testing companies, Aaron Brockovich went on to say.
Real data. I would like to see a public website, because all the public should be informed about what it is they're testing for, what it is they may or may not have found, but none of us have been able to see or access that information.
And it should be open to the public. The people that live there should have an open invitation to view any and all data that's going on. I mean, these are people's homes, families, livelihoods that we're dealing with, and the government just keeps saying everything is fine. They don't show any test results. They just tell you it's safe. And again, I go back to, I think that they're saying that because if they told you how dangerous it was, nobody would be on the ground trying to clean up that spill. But there may be hope on the horizon. FEMA's coming. I felt icky just saying that FEMA would give you hope. And they just conveniently waited until Trump announced he would be visiting. And CBS News asked Aaron Brockovich, is FEMA coming right now? Are they too late to the game at this point?
Well, we're 2 weeks into this? By the time I get out there, we're pushing 3 weeks into this? So yeah, to answer your question, it could be late to the game. And again, another interesting conversation, because they said a few days ago they wouldn't be coming. But yes, these people's houses could be full of these contaminants on the roof, in furniture, in the soot throughout the house, in the dust, all of that. And I think that they need to have safer housing. So again, quite a contradictory message. It's safe, but FEMA's coming. Are they going to give them housing? If it's safe, why do they have to move out of their house? And I've never in my 30-year career seen a situation unfold in front of all of us with such mismanagement and misinformation.
And Aaron Brockovich right there on CBS News makes the best point of it all. If it's safe, why do we need FEMA coming? Right? If it's all good, why do we need emergency management showing up on the scene? Well, because it's not all good. And even Ohio Senator Michael DelGirono, Republican, told Breitbart News in an exclusive interview on SiriusXM's Breitbart News Saturday that anyone living within 10 miles of East Palestine should not drink or bathe in the water. It is not safe, he affirmed. The bathing part is such an important thing that people overlook. When I lived in Michigan, I had a friend that was in Flint, and he had triplets at the time. He had 3 new babies at home. It was crazy. And the water went bad. Now, they weren't drinking the water, but they were showering in the water. And my friend lost his eyebrows and his hair. And that's just from contamination via lead. We're not talking about the chemicals, the absolutely just disgusting chemicals that they've leaked in to the groundwater from this train. That was just lead from pipes. You're absorbing all of those chemicals through your skin when you shower in hot water. Your pores are opening up, and it's all going right in, man. So, Ohio Senator, I think Michael DelGirono is one of the only ones making sense. If you live within 10 miles of East Palestine, you should not drink or bathe in the water. It is not safe. And again, I would even say further away than that, you shouldn't be doing it. Cincinnati just cut off their drinking water from the Ohio River. Northern Kentucky cut off all their inlets from the Ohio River because of this contamination as well. And it gets worse. We're also learning that the railroad workers thought the length of the train was too long before it even left the station. I can't even with this, man. Before it left the station, the workers there thought the train was too long. Workers, this is from the Republic Brief. Workers for Norfolk Southern are now admitting that they had concerns about the train's size before the accident and that those concerns probably contributed to both the derailment and an earlier failure after the train left Illinois on February 1st, according to CBS News. One employee tells the news source that we shouldn't be running trains that are 150 car lengths long. And it's highly probable that the impacts of the derailment would have been avoided if the train hadn't been so heavy. The train might pose a safety danger, according to 2 employees who talked with Motherboard. The former director of the Federal Railroad Administration, Sarah Feinberg, agrees that the size of the train would have been a concern, Wayne Dupree noted in this article. She said, I was not satisfied with the lengths of the trains. They were 80 or 90 cars long, she says of her tenure at the FRA. The derail one had 151 cars. So they should be 80 to 90 cars. The train that derailed in Palestine, Ohio, 151 cars. Almost twice the size of what it should have been. And even while adding more cars might make trains more efficient overall for railroad firms, cha-ching, all about money, it takes more time for the staff to examine such a train, shorter inspection times in the name of such efficiency, according to Jared Cassidy, National Legislative Director for one of the Norfolk Southern Workers Unions, made it likely that the car that derailed earlier this month hadn't been examined in some time. Woo! So just to recap, the 2 companies doing testing on the ground, Tetra Tech and the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, have been busted multiple times for falsifying results, testing results, and saying things are safe when they're not, because they want to bow down to their corporate overlords, because they're not employed by you and I. They're employed by the companies that bring them in to clean up these spills. So those are the 2 companies on the ground. The railroad workers had all spoken up and said, this train is too long. It's not safe. But money got in the way again, and it's much more profit if you have 151 cars instead of 80 or 90. And all the while, everyone's telling us everything is safe. Everything is fine. Nothing to see here.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
We've seen it so many times. So many times. Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, the oil spills in the Gulf, San Francisco dealing with it. We have cities and states that aren't even touching East Palestine, Ohio, that are shutting down the water coming from the Ohio River. All their water intakes in Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, they're closing them as a precautionary measure. But the people on the ground in East Palestine, they're telling you it's fine. Who are you going to believe? I mean, if this water truly is safe and effective, if it's been tested, then go home, get to work, right? Trust the government. Famous last words. Trust the government. I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed. And I honestly expect nothing less. I don't expect this train to be cleaned up anytime soon, and I don't expect honesty from the government. But that's just me. Super text line is open, 615-737-9986. It's Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
a brand new crash. It is north of downtown, and it's affecting folks trying to get to downtown. The southbound 3 left lanes are blocked, 65 southbound, right there north of Trinity Lane. And we've got the breaking news from Russia's war on Ukraine coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. That's very exciting.
You're welcome, Brother Chris Hand.
It's President's Day, and I was thinking to myself,
Did you get your shopping done?
yeah, I got all my shopping done.
Okay, all right.
But I wanted to know who's the best and worst president in America, right? American history.
Right.
Or at least the worst. I feel like it's more fun to do the worst president in American history than it is to do the best. Like, hey, you did a good job. We like you. But the worst president. And I also wanted to do a hard mode where no one can say Joe Biden.
Yeah, all right.
So text me your thoughts on who the worst president in American history was. 615-737-9986 on the super text line. Mac, do you have a worst president?
Yeah, I don't know. There's quite a many to choose from. I think I may have to sit this one out.
There's a lot of good choices. What about you, Ken Weaver? Do you have a favorite worst president in history?
I don't have a worst, but what I told the boys earlier today is that my situation, my family situation, was the best under President Trump.
Hey, same here.
Before President Trump, it was President George W. But Trump actually kind of made things better for my family while he was in office.
Hey, he did the same for me. My worst president, Woodrow Wilson. You guys want to know why?
Why?
Well, he created the Federal Reserve. Yeah, the Federal Reserve Act was passed by the 63rd Congress and signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson on December 23rd, 1913, sentencing us to fiat currency and debt slavery. Thank you, Woodrow Wilson. We salute you on this President's Day. It's 9:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono. Send me your text on the worst president, 615-737-9986.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got that crash affecting the 3 left lanes of 65 southbound there north of Trinity Lane. Got the full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. And breaking news from Russia's war on Ukraine.
After having delivered remarks in Kyiv today, President Biden will speak tomorrow in Warsaw, Poland, marking the first anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin also planning several speeches of his own, says ABC's Ian Pannell, who is in Kyiv with the latest.
President Putin is going to speak tomorrow and the day after on National Armed Forces Day. He's going to address both members of the House tomorrow, of the Russian chamber tomorrow. We have to wait and see what he says, but I think there are real concerns that as we come up to the one-year anniversary, that Putin may seek to escalate in order to potentially de-escalate at some point in the future.
Well, on the unannounced trip to Kyiv, President Biden reiterated the U.S. is examining possible war crimes accusations against the Russian army.
Pulling people out of apartments are being shelled and literally, I think, is a war crime.
While in Ukraine, the president also stood alongside President Vladimir Zelensky, paying respect to fallen soldiers.
That's Sherry Preston reporting. Stay with Super Talk 99.7 WTN for continuing coverage of President Biden's trip to Ukraine, now in Poland. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis fueling speculation of a run for the White House in 2024. He spent part of this morning on Staten Island, New York, touting his administration's successes supporting law enforcement.
The reason why you have what you have in some of these other jurisdictions is because they're putting woke ideology ahead of your safety.
The Hill reporting DeSantis hinted he will make a decision on a 2024 presidential run after Florida's legislative session wraps up in May. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono, who has the day off. And, sometimes we ask you super texters to text us, and you don't disappoint. Before we went to break last, I said, it's President's Day, and I want to know your best and worst presidents, really the worst presidents, because that's always more fun. But I said hard mode, you can't say Joe Biden.
That's the easy way out.
It is the easy way out. It's recency bias,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But that led to the super text line looking like this, Mac, right? What did it look like when I said Joe Biden?
Let me get it. Oh, wait. It's actually not that hard to remember. There it is. Obama, 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 Obama. That just goes on, Chris.
You guys don't disappoint. There was some weird answers. 0403 said that John Adams was the worst president. We're still waiting to hear back why. Lyndon B. Johnson was up there. Jimmy Carter. And some people just broke the decorum about hard mode, no Joe Biden, and said, no, it's Joe Biden. So I'll allow it. So speaking of Joe Biden and the current administration, whoa, what is going on with these people? Well, for starters, Kamala Harris was speaking at the Munich Security Conference and started off saying Russia is guilty of crimes against humanity. And then she went on to say we must renew our commitment to accountability.
And there is no doubt these are crimes against humanity.
I love the way she talks. She's so official. These are crimes.
The United States has formally determined that Russia has committed crimes against humanity. And I say to all those who have perpetrated these crimes and to their superiors
them too,
who are complicit in these crimes, you will be held to account. In the face of these indisputable facts, to all of us here in Munich, let's renew
it.
Our commitment to accountability.
That's my favorite line in the whole thing.
Let us renew our commitment to the rule of law.
Yeah, let's do that, don't we? So, Russia, you've committed crimes against humanity. Now, excuse me for not accepting everything said by this administration at face value, right? I just kind of find this hard to believe. War is hell. Have they committed crimes? Possibly. I'd be open to seeing evidence, and I'm always going to allow new evidence to change my mind and give me a new opinion. Always. But there's a saying about rocks and glass houses, right? I mean, if we're being honest, this is the same administration that blew up the Nord Stream pipeline only to blame Russia, which made no sense from the jump. And you don't have to take my word for it if this is the first time hearing that it was the Biden administration that blew up the pipeline. FirstPost.com is reporting the same thing. They write that Pulitzer-winning investigative journalist Seymour Hersh has termed the Nord Stream bombing, which he recently reported was done by the U.S., the dumbest acts from Washington in years. Just a few days ago, Hersh reported that the U.S. planted bombs on the Nord Stream pipeline under the Baltic Sea, which carried Russian gas to Germany during the Baltops joint military drill in June last year. Interesting to say the least. And I always found this more plausible. I never understood why Russia would blow up its own pipeline. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's a cash flow for you, and it's leverage over the European Union. So why would Russia blow up its own pipeline, ruin that cash flow, and ruin that leverage? Well, Seymour Hersh, that award-winning, Pulitzer-winning investigative journalist, has an idea. The president of the United States would rather see Germany freeze than see Germany possibly stop supporting Ukraine. He wrote that on a separate Substack post. Europe is now forced to seek fuel from other sources, including the United States itself. And I think it's going to undercut NATO, which I always found to be supremely useless, he added in an interview. The White House has denied Hersh's claim as complete nonsense. But he's stuck with his unnamed source, and he has said that this information is accurate. So I ask you, in this new age of accountability, how many times has the Biden administration told us that something's not true, only for us to later find out that it was very true and very accurate, right? We have to recommit ourselves to accountability, where we wage war by covert means and proxy wars to weaken adversaries, while our own country, infrastructure, economy, etc., is in shambles. And we aren't just paying for the war, we're paying for Ukraine's retirement pensions too. This clip just resurfaced of Joe Biden saying just that from April of 22.
Pensions and social support to be paid to the Ukrainian people so they have something in their pocket.
So we're going to pay for their pensions too. That's how much we're getting in on this war. Yeah, the people need something in their pocket. But those people in East Palestine, well, screw them. The homeless veterans, forget about it. Families struggling to make ends meet through record inflation, well, that's not Biden's problem, Jack. We got to pay these Ukrainian pensions. Come on, man. We can't just be fixing America's problems. We got pensions in Ukraine to pay.
Pensions and social support to be paid to the Ukrainian people so they have something in their pocket.
They got to have something in their pocket. Breitbart reports that the video is from remarks Biden gave on April 28th, 2022, calling on Congress to pass $33 billion in aid for Ukraine, calling it a pivotal moment for Ukraine. Now, since then, Congress has passed more than $113 billion for Ukraine in less than 12 months. And today, he just committed another $500 million to Ukraine. Now, the video's recent recirculation highlighted growing frustration over the Biden regime's desire to support Ukraine as long as it takes. While the U.S. suffers from its own fiscal woes, a toxic chemical spill in Ohio, and a potentially insolvent Social Security system. A popular Twitter account that I follow, Wall Street Silv, tweeted, "We have maxed out our debt limit, but somehow we can still afford to pay for pensions and everything else in Ukraine." Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Rep. Tom Tiffany, a Republican from Wisconsin, tweeted that Social Security is headed for insolvency by 2033. Biden, American taxpayers will pick up the tab for Ukrainian pension payments. But, you know, we got to renew our commitment to accountability, right? That's what Kamala Harris said.
Let us
renew it.
Our commitment to accountability.
I think that's the only thing she's ever said that I've agreed with. Though we have different definitions of accountability, I'm sure. And the war keeps escalating. From Breitbart, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged that the United Kingdom will become the first state to supply Ukraine with long-range weapons to use in its war with Russia. Now, in comments made on Saturday at the Munich Security Conference in Germany, the Prime Minister of the UK said that the West must help Ukraine to shield its cities from Russian bombs and Iranian drones, and that's why the United Kingdom will be the first country to provide Ukraine with longer-range weapons. So, let's just a quick rundown. The U.S. is donating billions for weapons and even retirement funds. The UK is sending long-range missiles. The EU is supplying tanks. Everyone's getting involved in the fun. But the United States ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said on Sunday on CNN's State of the Union that there would be consequences if China tried to provide aid to Russia. So we're all allowed to provide aid to Ukraine, but Russia's not allowed to have any aid because, accountability.
We all want peace in Ukraine, and our message to China is China should not do anything that will provide lethal support to the Russians to assist them in their brutal attacks on the Ukrainian people. And we've made that message clear through the president, but also Secretary Blinken made that message clear in his conversations with the Chinese leader yesterday.
Right.
Okay, so just in case you're keeping score at home, only the West can fund proxy wars. You got that? Only the West. Now, this isn't a pro-China rant or a pro-Russia rant, FYI. It's anti-war and anti-hypocrisy, and I don't like that we are slowly but surely, inch by inch, walking down this road to World War III. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. China says they want peace between Ukraine and Russia, but that's China, and I take that peace with salt. So what happens when China does what China wants, as China tends to, and provides assistance to Russia?
Well, we welcome the Chinese announcement that they want peace because that's what we always want to pursue in situations like this. But we also have to be clear that if there are any thoughts and efforts by the Chinese and others to provide lethal support to the Russians in their brutal attack against Ukraine, that is unacceptable. Again, that would be a red line.
A red line? A red line, you say? I've heard this before. I didn't know they were doing a Red Line remake.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
They have to abide by their treaty with Israel. That is a red line for us.
A red line for us is
we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
Yeah, I knew I heard that red line before. I love the remakes. So there's the red line. I'm glad they're back to playing some of the Obama hits. Joking aside, this Ukraine-Russia conflict is an absolute mess, and I don't think we should be involved. I don't think we should have been involved from the jump, and the more involved we get, the closer we get to World War III. Seriously. The more involved we get, the closer we get to World War III. Kamala Harris is calling out Russia, saying that they're committing crimes against humanity. We're possibly the ones that blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. We're funding the Ukrainians to the tunes of hundreds of billions. And again, I truly believe if we had stayed out of this conflict, the world would have been better for it. And I say that because the potential right now for nukes to fly in World War III is great. It's probably greater than it's ever been in my lifetime. And we're seeing the battle lines and the teams being drawn, right? And a much larger issue than Russia bullying its neighbors is World War III. You can agree with me or disagree, and I'm always open to new information to change my mind. The phone lines are open at 615-737-9986, or you can hit up the super text line as well, 615-737-9986. A new commitment to accountability from Kamala Harris. Crimes against humanity by Russia and Ukraine, and more billions on the way from American taxpayers. Man, it's just Monday. It's just President's Day in America, baby. This is what we do. 1020 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono.
I say,
President Biden makes an unannounced trip to Ukraine, and News 2 has some new information about that deadly shooting last night. A bullet went through a window, a bottle of shampoo, and a shower curtain. We'll tell you about it at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It is 10:25 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand, not Michael DelGirono. Michael DelGirono has the day off, and I thank him for letting me fill in and hang out with you on this wonderful President's Day. So a minute ago, we were talking about Kamala Harris. Kamala, I don't even know. But anyway, she was speaking at the Munich Security Conference in Germany, and she started out saying that Russia has committed crimes against humanity. And I just want to say the super texters are some of my favorite people on the planet because you guys crack me up non-stop. So super texter 8394 said, I'm pretty sure she meant crimes against huge manatees. Yeah, those Russian subs taking out those huge manatees. They have to pay. We can't keep letting them get away with this. Super texter Kathy said, and there was two super texters. It was Kathy and 8394 with the hive mind saying Kamala Harris talks like Captain Kirk. And if you missed the clip, here's Kamala Harris talking at the Munich Security Conference in Germany over the weekend about Russia's crimes against huge manatees.
and I say to all those who have perpetrated these crimes and to their superiors,
she is Captain Kirk,
who are complicit in these crimes, you will be held to account.
Oh, there it is.
In the face of these indisputable facts, to all of us, here in Munich,
us here,
let us renew our commitment to accountability.
Let us renew our our commitment to accountability. The other funny super texter texted in, I can't find the number, but she said, at least Kamala wasn't talking about school buses. So there's that. I think we can all be thankful for that on this President's Day. But I want to say, did you catch that last line in Kamala's speech? She said that we're going to have a new commitment to accountability. Okay, I like that idea. A new commitment to accountability.
Let us renew our commitment to accountability.
All right, our commitment to accountability. Let's unpack that. I find that line sobering, and I'll explain why. I mean, we often poke fun, laugh, mock the ineptitudes of this current regime we have in America, and it seems like every day they're putting their feet in their mouth, or like that Kamala quote, talking out the side of their mouths. So accountability, you say, renewing our commitment to accountability. That's a knee slapper with this current Democratic Party. Should I go down the list? We're still waiting for accountability on several things, actually. The weaponization of the FBI and Justice Department spying on an incoming and active president in Donald Trump. I'd love some accountability there. Ooh, another one would be Hillary's email server. Can we renew our commitment to accountability there? Hunter's laptop? That'd be cool. Ooh, I got a good one. What about election interference leading up to 2020? I love it. Let's renew our commitment to accountability. That sounds great, right? Accountability is the word of the day.
What's the status of the administration's own internal review? A lot of talk about this.
So this clip is the administration, renewing their commitment to accountability on their abysmal Afghanistan withdrawal and the report that they're providing on, why it was so messed up.
What's the status of the administration's own internal review? A lot of talk about this. Is that ever going to be finished or released publicly?
So it's don't have any update on the review. I know that's been asked a couple of times. I know that Jake Sullivan came and spoke to this some time ago, our national security advisor. Just don't have an update for you all. And once we have something to share, we certainly will provide it.
Get an update on for next week?
I would have to honestly speak to Jake Sullivan, the National Security Council team. But I know that's come up a couple times here at the podium, and he's spoken to this. I would just have to go back to them and get some information for you.
Oh, all right. So the accountability is coming for Afghanistan and that abysmal withdrawal in 21. At least that's what cringe John Pierre said on Friday. And she's just waiting for an update from Biden's team. That's all that's going on, guys. We're just, we're being accountable. That's accountability, right? Investigating your own failures till the American public forgets about them for accountability. Ooh, I got another one. How about accountability for letting a spy balloon fly over the entire country, including nuclear sites, and letting it do its thing, but instead shooting down $12 science projects with $450,000 missiles to look good after, compromising our national security? Can we look forward to that kind of accountability?
Knowing everything he knows now, would he take the exact same steps and shoot off these expensive missiles at these benign objects?
We're going to put some more policy parameters in place, James, to govern the way we handle these going forward. You make the best decisions you can with the information you have at the recommendation of military leaders. I can't say it any more than that.
Oh, man, that's accountability, baby. And we got more accountability on the way. It's 10:31 on Super Talk 99.7. Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono. Here's the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've got a brand new crash to report. It is the on-ramp right lane blocked from 40 westbound to go eastbound on I-24 there in South Nashville. President Biden and other Western allies gathering in Poland today, marking the first anniversary of the war in Ukraine this week. He and panels in Kyiv with more on Russian President Vladimir Putin's position.
Things are still not going well. Putin has very little to show for his year-long invasion of Ukraine, and I think he needs to try and change
We have since shot down 3 other objects.
I'm not so sure they can do that, but I think everyone will now focus attention away from Kyiv towards Moscow to see what President Putin has to say.
Yeah, Putin preparing to deliver his own address on the status of the war to the Russian people tomorrow and Wednesday. And right now in Nashville, News 2 says a court affidavit says a bullet went through a bathroom window, a bottle of shampoo, and a shower curtain before killing a woman inside her James Casey housing complex apartment late last night. A 40-year-old man is in custody on a criminal homicide charge. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
And I say to all those who have perpetrated these crimes and to their superiors who are complicit in these crimes, you will be held to account.
That was Kamala Harris over the weekend at the Munich Security Conference. I played that again for all the super texters who were telling me how much they love Kamala's voice. I'm just kidding. You should read some of these
I think we're reading different texts here, Chris.
They're ruthless. 615-737-9986 is the super text line. You can watch the show as well. We are on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. Super Talk TV is live. But so Kamala Harris was in Munich over the weekend, Munich Security Conference in Germany. And she said that we need to renew our commitment to accountability. The super texters are ruthless. They say she sounds like Christopher Walken. They say she sounds like Captain Kirk. They say she sounds like she's just learning how to read. They said, another texter said, please stop playing her and just put on the Cars for Kids commercial. And another super texter said, wow, you can tell that she doesn't write her own speech and she didn't proofread it either. Awesome.
I mean, she obviously is not reading through these.
No.
Or she just doesn't know how to read through them. But either way, that's rough. Captain Kirk is my favorite comparison there.
Captain Kamala.
Captain Kamala.
So we're in this new age, recommitting ourselves to accountability. Okay, that's what the Biden administration wants to do, thanks to Russia's crimes against huge manatees. So, what does accountability look like in the Biden administration is something I want to talk about. Well, man, it doesn't look good. So we're recommitting our commitment to accountability, okay? That's what Kamala said, not me.
Let us renew our commitment to accountability.
So does accountability mean, like, with the balloons that were flying over, or when we shot down kids' science projects? Is that what they mean by accountability? Hold on, here's the Biden administration with more accountability.
We have since shot down 3 other objects. The president came out and said that they're most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutes that are studying things like weather or other things. My understanding, correct us if we're wrong, we're told these missiles used to take out these balloons are over $400,000 each. One of them, apparently we used 2, and the balloon was only maybe worth $12. What do you tell the American people about our ability, our radar, our defenses to differentiate between real threats, because we can't spend that kind of taxpayer money taking down hobby balloons?
Well, we don't know exactly what these balloons were, and then we've called off now the search in Lake Huron and the one over Alaska, so we may never know completely. But the leading intelligence community assessment is that they were probably for benign purposes, whether it's weather or commercial scientific research.
All right, well, if that doesn't sound like accountability, I don't know what to tell you conspiracy theorists, all right? They don't know what they shot down, and they're not going to look for it either. They're calling off the search, right?
When you say what is secure?
So that's some grade A accountability. They're not going to keep searching. Move along. Nothing to see here. But wait, there's more. I feel like Billy Mays. But wait, if you agree to our lies, we'll give you an extra white lie for free. The word is accountability. Kamala Harris said we need to renew our commitment to accountability over the weekend. And I'm just highlighting how the admin remains accountable every day. Ooh, here's a good one. They always remain accountable on the border, right? It's secure. And of course, the government is being held accountable for that. Just listen to this from Secretary Mayorkas over the weekend in a softball interview with Chris Wallace.
When you say what does secure mean to you? It certainly doesn't mean that people aren't able to get across the border illegally.
Of course not. But by that measure, the border's never been secure, right? Since the Department of Homeland Security was created, individuals have evaded.
So by what measure is it secure now, sir?
So there is not a common definition of that. If one looks at the statutory definition, the literal interpretation of the statutory language, if one person successfully evades law enforcement at the border, then we have breached the security of the border. So what we try to do,
what's your definition?
What our goal is to achieve operational control of the border.
All right, man, listen, definitions are hard, okay? And you know what? In the name of accountability, Mayorkas says, who's really needing to be held accountable for the border crisis? And no, it's not our lovely border czar Kamala Harris. She can't be held accountable for it. So who are we going to hold accountable for the border in this new recommitment to accountability? Well, I'll tell you. And spoiler alert, it's the Republicans' fault, obviously.
Migrants believe there's an open border.
Chris, have you heard some of our political leaders speak about the border and communicate that the border is open? I don't think the more than 1.5 million people who have been removed or expelled from the border would consider the border open, but political leaders communicate that the border is open. That is music to the smugglers' ears, and the smugglers themselves
wait. You're going to blame this all on Republican presidents?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're not going to say that the administration and the policies on Remain in Mexico or Title 42 or stopping construction of the wall, that had no impact?
Chris, that's not what I said. I'm just citing for you a few things, and please allow me. Number one, they use that rhetoric. Number two, we're dealing with smuggling organizations that are far more sophisticated than they were when I prosecuted them for 12 years as an assistant United States attorney and as the United States attorney.
Oh, it's just way more sophisticated now than it used to be. And at the same time, in the last clip, he said, by your definition, the border's never been secure. So which is it? They've gotten more sophisticated. The border's never been secure. It's Republicans' fault. Okay, let's just go with it's Republicans' fault. Is that what we're going to do? Okay, got it. I mean, it just really tickles me pink. Dem leadership and Kamala Harris call for a recommitment to accountability, and then they just blame the right. It's always everyone else's fault. If the Dems are good at anything, it's projection. And here, this is for all the super texters asking for Kamala.
Let us renew our commitment to accountability.
Let us renew that, can't we? I mean, this administration is so inept. So inept. When it comes to Afghanistan, they're doing their own report on the pullout and the withdrawal that was just abysmal, that left Americans stranded, that gave billions in weapons to the Afghanis and the Taliban. They're doing their own report there, so there's going to be accountability, right? Cringe, Jean-Pierre?
What's the status of the administration's own internal review? A lot of talk about this. Is that ever going to be finished or released publicly?
So it's don't have any update on the review. I know that's been asked
yet.
a couple of times. I know that Jake Sullivan came and spoke to this some time ago. Our national security advisor. Just don't have an update for you all. And once we have something to share, we certainly will provide it.
Get an update on for next week.
I would have to honestly speak to Jake Sullivan, the National Security Council team. But I know that's come up a couple of times here at the podium, and he's spoken to this. I would just have to go back to them and get some information for you.
That's the new commitment to accountability, right? We're going to do our own investigation on our own failures, and we'll get back to you.
Let us renew our commitment to accountability.
I mean, come on with this administration. There is no accountability in the Biden administration. Has there ever been accountability in the Biden administration? Going all the way back to when he was vice president, have we had any accountability for the weaponization of the FBI and the Justice Department spying on an incoming and active president, Donald Trump? Was there any accountability on Hillary's email server? Any accountability on Hunter's laptop? What about all the national intelligence guys that said it was Russian disinformation? Do we have any accountability on that? The election interference that we all saw on a daily basis up to 2020? And any accountability? Any accountability for Twitter censoring the Hunter laptop? No, not yet. But let's renew our commitment to that accountability. Phil texted and said that I think they were talking about Joe's accounting ability. 10% for the big guy. Do we have any accountability for 10% for the big guy? Of course not. Of course not. No accountability on the border. No accountability on the economy. No accountability on the crimes that this administration has committed. Jeez Louise. Super texter Rooster texted in and said, depends on what your definition of definition is. Super texter 1502 said, no wonder Kamala's husband locked lips with Jill. It's a new age of accountability. I wonder if he's going to be held accountable for that at home. 615-737-9986 is the number to text. We're taking your super texts and your phone calls as I'm filling in for Michael DelGirono. And a reminder, we are live on Super Talk TV, and that's happening on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. If you want to get an inside look at how the donuts are made, you can do that. And we're going over Kamala Harris. She's at the Munich Security Conference, and she's emphasizing that Russia has committed crimes against humanity, and we need to hold them accountable.
In the face of these indisputable facts, to all of us here in Munich, let us renew our commitment to accountability.
How about we start with the accountability on who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Can we talk about that? Because it was blamed as Russia blowing up their own pipeline. And Russia has accused us of doing it. And Pulitzer-winning investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, Well, he said it was the U.S. as well, and he termed the Nord Stream bombing as the dumbest act from Washington in years. Just a few days ago, Hirsch reported that the U.S. planted bombs on the Nord Stream pipeline under the Baltic Sea, which carried Russian gas to Germany during the Baltops joint military drill in June last year. Interesting to say the least, and I always found this as more plausible, but so where's the accountability on that? We have to hold Russia accountable for crimes against humanity, but knocking out natural gas to Germany, well, that's not a crime against humanity. Russia did it. Well, investigative journalist Seymour Hersh goes on. He says the president of the United States would rather see Germany freeze than see Germany stop supporting Ukraine. And I think it's going to undercut NATO, which I always found to be supremely useless, he added in the interview. The White House has denied Hersh's claim as complete nonsense, but he has stuck with his unnamed source, and he has said that his information is accurate. So, in this recommitment to accountability, can we stop waging war by covert means? Can we stop with the proxy wars to weaken our adversaries while our own country is in shambles from infrastructure to economy and everything in between? And can we stop footing the bill for the Ukraine war? Can we let Ukraine be accountable for Ukraine? Is that something that we can do in this new commitment to accountability? Some super texters disagree with me. They say it's our job to be defending Ukraine. And I mean, I get it to a certain extent, but if the end result of us helping Ukraine is World War III, count me out. That is not something I want to be held accountable for. It's 10:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand, and I'm in for Michael DelGirono. Thank you for hanging out with me so far.
Over there at the Eastern Split in South Nashville, you got the on-ramp right lane blocked. This is to go from 40 westbound to eastbound at 24. And we've got continuing coverage of the new high-level surprise and meetings on Russia's war on Ukraine coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's exciting to have a real live newsman in the building. I had a super texter ask if you were actually doing the newscast live.
I am doing the newscast live. That's why you hear a mistake about every other sentence.
Oh, come on, Ken. There's no mistakes.
You just roll
there's
right
only
through
There's
them,
only happy little accidents.
That's right.
That's
right.
it. So the super text line is absolutely jumping at 615-737-9986. People are begging me to not play the Kamala Harris audio anymore. And so, hold on. So no, I'm not going to play it. I was going to play it one more time, but I'm not going to do that to the super text line. They are really going in on Kamala Harris. They're wondering if she speaks that way when she's getting intimate with the first man in the bedroom.
Oh, gosh.
Goodness. That's 0762 said that to me. Oh my, yes, that's it. The spot. Oh, jeez. The mental
picture. When she
picture.
orders a pizza.
I'll take a large cheese pizza with minimal sauce. She's terrible. She's like the worst official we've ever had in office. But it's President's Day, and a lot of people were texting in about the worst presidents that have ever been in office. You can text your favorite worst president at 615-737-9986. And everybody, we got about 1,000 texts saying Obama because I said hard mode, you can't do Joe Biden. And everybody said, that's easy.
And then one person said, worst vice president?
Biden. He did a little skirt around the rules there. I did have one which I liked. I'm looking for right now. It was about, I wish I could find it. The president that started the Welfare Act. Ken, do you know which president signed into law the Welfare Act?
Goodness. No, I do not.
Man, I just had
I can look it up and tell you.
Perfect. Yeah, do that for me.
All right.
I had also Kramer at 0900 texted in and said Wilson also started the United Nations.
Clinton?
So that puts him up there. Well, Clinton played the saxophone.
Welfare Act of 1996. That would have been Bill Clinton.
Yeah, it would have been Bill.
Bill Clinton. Okay.
Wait a minute. No, we're gonna have to look at this closer.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah. I thought somebody did it before Bill Clinton.
Yeah, they had to have.
Was it FDR?
Yeah, it was FDR. 1935.
Terrible president. Terrible. Also, other worst presidents. A lot of people are really throwing dirt on Jimmy Carter, man. And I'm not going to go there while he's in hospice. But terrible president, great human being, and that's something we can't say about our current president.
It's a good point
because I don't think he's a great human being when he's getting 10% kickbacks. And I also looked up, with his fiscal policy, Social Security is going to die. It's going to be dead in the water pretty soon with the way our economy is going. But that doesn't stop him from collecting a Social Security check. Joe Biden and the First Lady are making about $5,000 and change every month from Social Security. Should it be a crime for a United States president to also be receiving a Social Security check? I feel like if you're working in the government, then you shouldn't be taking a Social Security check. Is that just me?
No, I think that's a great point.
That just seems slimier than slimy.
Yeah.
Plus, he's just going to give it to Hunter anyway, and Hunter's going to do God knows what with it.
Oh, gosh.
Got to get some gas in that Corvette, my man. 5543. Worst president. Does most of them count as an answer? Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it does. That's actually a very accurate answer, most of them. 2120 said Lyndon Johnson is the worst president with the Great Society. Wendy texted, said, FDR, who's even heard of that guy? Abraham Lincoln was the last real president.
Just about to read that one.
After the entire political system went corrupt. All good points. All very accurate. 615-737-9986 is the number to text. We are also live on the Super Talk TV. You can see me. You can see me as I read your super texts on the air. We're on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. Our Twitter handle at 997WTN. I'm at CHand4615, the number 4615. And you and your texts on the worst president, we'll get more of those next. 615-737-9986. It's just about 11 o'clock right here on the Big W, as Michael DelGirono says. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand, filling in for Michael DelGirono. And it's just about time for those news headlines from Ken Weaver, who does the news live on Super Talk.
$11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a crash in the way. The on-ramp right lane is blocked to go from 40 westbound to eastbound 24. That's at that eastern split in South Nashville. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And continuing coverage of the new high-level surprise and meetings on Russia's war on Ukraine.
President Biden makes an unannounced visit to Ukraine nearly a year after the Russian invasion. Mr. Biden in the nation's capital, meeting with President Zelensky and other government officials.
Kyiv has captured a part of my heart, I must say.
ABC's Patrick Reevell is there.
The reaction from Ukrainians is, first of all, I have to say, surprised. They really were not expecting President Biden to appear here. But secondly, it has in general, when you speak to them, they are delighted. You know, they believe that this is a very strong show of support from the U.S. and coming at a time when they are particularly concerned about holding off Russia's new offensive in the east, but also getting the weapons necessary to try and launch a counteroffensive in the spring.
When Mr. Biden arrived in Kyiv, air raid sirens could be heard as the fighting continues to escalate, especially in the eastern part of Ukraine. Mr. Biden will visit Warsaw, Poland tomorrow for a meeting with Prime Minister Duda and with leaders of 9 NATO countries.
Daria Albinger reporting. More speculation about another announcement for the White House. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaking today in New York.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis claims police in his state have more public support than they do in places like Chicago and here in New York City, in part because of ideological beliefs.
The reason why you have what you have in some of these other jurisdictions is because they're putting woke ideology ahead of your safety.
DeSantis told a police group on Staten Island he's proud of Florida's record of limiting discussion in public schools and race, gender, and sexual orientation. New York City Mayor Eric Adams skipped the DeSantis visit, but tweeted a welcome, saying, "We're happy to teach you something about values while you're here."
Sherry Preston reporting, and that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand filling in for Michael DelGirono. Hope you are having a great day. I just got my first mean super text ever from 8634. He said, "This is the worst fill-in ever. He is not prepared to do a show." Cheers, 8634. Thank you for that. You got to keep me humble, and I appreciate you. So, we have a woke trash warning going out to parents everywhere. So when my oldest daughter asks me to watch a new updated version of a movie, most of the times I say no. And she'll roll her eyes at me and say, "Let me guess, Dad, it's woke trash." To which I always smile back and I say, "It's woke trash, dear." So today I present to you a woke trash warning so you don't have to find out the hard way. From Fox News, Disney is slammed for anti-white propaganda and the new Proud Family reboot. The Proud Family was a Disney show in the early 2000s. They brought it back for Disney Plus, I think it is. And this is the ones that you really have to be on your guard about. When they have a show that was on the air when I'm 34, so like when I was a kid, the show was on the air and it was a normal show. And then they do a remake to lull parents into a false sense of security because they've watched the show and then they filled it up with woke trash. It's been done ad nauseum. They did it with Rocko's Modern Life on Netflix, where they brought the show back and then they added a new season where there was a transgender character. And now on the Disney reboot of this cartoon show, The Proud Family, Disney is basically saying America's racist. From Fox News, Disney show argues that America owes black Americans because the country still has not atoned for its systemic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy. A reboot of the Disney show The Proud Family is receiving backlash over a rap in a recent episode of the cartoon featuring kids debating about slavery and reparations and arguing that America owes black Americans because America still has not atoned for its systemic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy. This country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country, the song repeatedly stated in the Disney Plus episode of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And I have that song for your listening pleasure. Hey, Mac, I need some audio. Yo, Mac, I need audio. Thank you. Here it is.
This country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country.
Ooh.
Tilled this land from sea to sea to sea. First there was rice, tobacco, sugar cane. Then Whitney did his thing and cotton became king. And we were its soldiers, 4 million strong. Fighting for America's freedoms, even though we remained America's slaves. Built this country. The descendants of slaves continue to build this. Slaves built this country. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned reparations for their suffering. And continue.
Now, while this song is going on, there are some judges at this talent show that are all white and they look horrified. Then, in the background, they're showing pictures of, all the racist things, Klansmen, burning crosses, segregated water fountains. And they're saying America's so evil and so racist. And it keeps going.
Heirs, to the northern bankers, to the New England ship owners, the founding fathers, former presidents, current senators,
the Illuminati, the New World Order,
slaves built this country. We had Tubman, Turner,
Frederick D.
Didn't they say Lincoln freed the slaves?
But slaves were men.
And women. And only we can free ourselves. Emancipation is not freedom.
Emancipation is not freedom.
Public schools feeding private prisons where we become slaves again. As we celebrate Juneteenth for the umpteenth time,
my goodness.
our account is still outstanding. Because this country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. And we demand our 48.
Listen, it's just woke trash. Don't let your kids watch this. This is literally propaganda for your kids. Again, during that clip, you're going to see all the racist calling cards, the Klansmen, the burning crosses, the segregated water fountains. It is literally propaganda for your kids. This is the 1619 Project in cartoon form. No kid should be made to feel guilty for the color of their skin. Period. It's ridiculous. And that's exactly what Disney is doing. They're pushing this white guilt narrative, and I am not a fan. And you might be like, Chris, no, you don't understand. You have to understand their lived experience. You need to understand and learn. I mean, dude, I did all the training, the corporate training. I've done all the learning. I know about lived experiences. And I know that this is propaganda. This show goes on, and it even places the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo in the episode a couple times to be highlighted and be seen. Seriously. And then you have an argument between two people, one black, one white, when this book shows up, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo.
Oh, you understand love, don't you? No, I do not understand anything about white fragility.
Oh.
White fragility? What's that supposed to mean? You know what it means.
What does it mean?
You're doing it right now. Doing what? Being defensive about race.
Oh.
Robin DiAngelo wrote a whole book about it. Read it.
Yet again,
on page 39.
same
Not on page 39.
cover and everything.
My dad wouldn't even look at the diary. He said his people would never own slaves. How could he just dismiss me like that? White fragility.
White Fragility.
Oh, Brother Kwame.
Oh, and then Brother Kwame shows up to teach the kids all about race and what's really going down. So I do want to point out that those two people that are talking about racism and white fragility are an interracial gay couple in the show. You heard me correct. So not only are they pushing the race mixing, the race propaganda, they're also pushing the LGBTQ agenda. So you have an interracial gay couple. The black one is married to the white guy. The black guy is married to the white guy. And it's the black guy who's calling out the man he's married to for being racist. Can somebody make this make sense? So the black guy married the white guy, and then years down the road after they've had a kid, they adopted a kid. Now he finds out that his spouse is racist. I don't understand it. It doesn't seem like real life. I never thought that I could never imagine somebody getting married and then deciding that their spouse is racist. Whether it's a straight or a gay couple. Make this make sense to me. I wish Brother Kwame was here to break it down. So that's the Disney Plus reboot of The Proud Family. Woke trash alert, woke trash warning. Be on the lookout for that. And it's not just TV shows we need to be on the woke trash lookout for, okay? They're changing the books now, too. And I have two stories to share. The first is from The Telegraph, and this is basically the 1619 Project on literature. They're quite literally rewriting our favorite books. Roald Dahl goes PC in a world where no one is fat and the Oompa Loompas are now gender neutral. Augustus Gloop is no longer fat. Mrs. Twit is no longer fearfully ugly. And the Oompa Loompas have gone gender neutral in new edition of Roald Dahl's books. So they're taking all of Roald Dahl's stories and they're rewriting them. Mac, They are rewriting our favorite kids' books.
gosh.
And again, this is how they sneak it in, right? So like I said with the TV shows, they'll do it to a show that we watched as kids. So that way we kind of like, we think it's safe, and then they add in a new season with some woke trash. Now they're rewriting books. So if your kid wants to go read Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl, you're going to go, oh, I loved that book as a kid. You're going to love it too. But it's woke trash now.
You're not even going to know that.
And you're not even going to know. So the publisher is Puffin, and they have made hundreds of changes to the original texts of these books, removing many of Dahl's colorful descriptions and making his characters less grotesque. So they're editing his descriptions of characters, and they're also entering in new passages. Now listen to this. The review of Dahl's language was undertaken to ensure that the books can continue to be enjoyed by all today, Puffin Publishers said. References to physical appearance have been heavily edited. The word fat has been removed from every book. The word fat has been removed from every book. Augustus Gloop in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory may still look like a ball of dough, but now he can only be described as enormous. In that same story, the Oompa Loompas are no longer tiny, titchy, or no higher than my knee, but they're just small. And where they were once small men, now they're small people.
I mean, forget the woke angle of this, which obviously it's there in abundance. This is just like you're getting rid of the good writing, great adjectives, descriptive words to learn how to really imagery in a book. I mean, that's huge for a kid. That's gone now.
Well, and when I was a kid, the colorful language is what made me giggle and interested about reading. Like, I may not use the word fat to describe somebody, but when you read it in print, it's like, ah, ha, ha, ha.
Exactly. Yes, of course.
But that's gone. And then passages that weren't even written by Dahl have been added. So now they're adding new things to the books that he had nothing to do with. So in The Witches, a paragraph explaining that the witches are bald beneath their wigs ends with a new line. There are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there is certainly nothing wrong with that. Dude, woke trash warning. So in a previous edition of James and the Giant Peach, this has been changed also. In the previous edition, the centipede in James and the Giant Peach sings, Aunt Sponge was terrifically fat and tremendously flabby at that. And Aunt Spiker was thin as a wire and dry as a bone, only drier. Both of those verses have been removed. And in their place, Aunt Sponge was a nasty old brute and deserved to be squashed by the fruit. Aunt Spiker was much of the same and deserves half of the blame. So the books are less fun, and they're woke trash. Also, references to female characters have disappeared. Miss Trunchbull in Matilda was once a formidable female, is now a most formidable woman. Boys and girls have been turned into children. The Cloud Men in James and the Giant Peach have become Cloud People. And Fantastic Mr. Fox's 3 sons have become daughters. Matilda reads Jane Austen rather than Rudyard Kipling. And a witch posing as a cashier in a supermarket now works as a top scientist. Mrs. Twit's fearful ugliness is just reduced to ugliness. And while Mrs. Hoppy in SEO Trot is not an attractive middle-aged lady, but she's a kind middle-aged lady. One of Dahl's most popular lines from the Twits is, you can have a wonky nose and a crooked mouth and a double chin and teeth stick out. But if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams. Now, that has been edited to take out the line double chin. Woke trash warning. They're changing your favorite children's books. And it doesn't stop there. PJ Media is reporting that the UK Counterterrorism Group has reviewed. The UK Counterterrorism Review has flagged several books for encouraging far-right sympathies. Do you know what books have encouraged far-right sympathies? Well, it's just Beowulf, Shakespeare, and George Orwell's 1984. So if you read those, you're on the alt-right. That's my best Tucker voice. Russia. So, just to recap, they're sneaking woke trash into your kids' cartoons by rebooting the cartoons you loved as a kid. They're sneaking woke trash into your favorite books you read as a kid by editing it and adding new passages. If you are a parent in 2023, you need to be on the woke trash lookout. It's Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
get you the latest on that high-level surprise visit to Ukraine today. Also, looks like the stray bullet went through a bottle of shampoo in Nashville overnight, and it ended up killing a woman right in her own apartment. We'll tell you about it at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much, Ken. He does the news live, ladies and gentlemen, every day. Super Talk 99.7.
Yeah, live. I mean, that's, you can hear the mispronounced words every half hour.
Oh, hey, they can hear the mispronounced words every couple minutes when I'm on the air.
I was about to say, you'll hear them a lot more from 3 to 6:30 here tonight when I'm doing the news. You'll hear those mispronunciations way more.
Oh, so you are doing the news this afternoon?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Well, that's why Brother Mac and I, stick with, run, R-U-N, cat, C-A-T,
yes, exactly.
the dog.
Yeah, they should see we should put the warm-up activities before we get on the air on Super Talk TV. Unique New York.
I'm not even going to touch that one.
All right, it's Chris Hand filling in for Michael DelGirono. We kid, we joke, but there's a lot of serious things going on in the world today. The biggest story on my radar is the toxic train derailment and all of the drama that surrounds that, and danger too, man. All right, so a quick rundown. February 3rd, 38 train cars derailed in East Palestine, Ohio. Now, 11 of those cars had hazardous material. It was February 5th that Ohio Governor Mike DeWine and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro signed off on plans to burn the chemicals. Now, at 3:30 on February 6th, the crews released vinyl chloride, among other chemicals, into a trench they had dug around the derailment and lit it on fire. They didn't line that hole with anything. They didn't do any of that. They just dumped it in and lit it on fire, which created that huge plume of black smoke everyone's been seeing, which is traveling all over the globe as we speak. Now, on February 15th, East Palestine held a town hall to address the concerns of citizens, and Norfolk Southern backed out. So what the heck is going on in Ohio? Well, local officials, they're telling everybody that everything is safe and that there's nothing to worry about. Governor Mike DeWine, he says it's fine. But Sil Caggiano, a hazardous materials expert, said about the spill and cleanup to local ABC News over a week ago. He said this about the spill and the cleanup.
We basically nuked the town with chemicals so we could get a railroad open.
So they nuked the town with chemicals to get a railroad open. But everything's fine, right? Sure. Everything's fine. Just mismanagement making things worse. In fact, it's gotten so much worse that other states are currently taking action. The Post-Millennial's reporting that Cincinnati has cut off drinking water from the Ohio River due to East Palestine derailment contamination concerns. And from WCPO ABC 9 in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky has also closed Ohio River water intakes as a precautionary measure for possible East Palestine contamination. And even CNN is saying that the devastation from that derailment is real and that Palestine residents are worried that the rashes, headaches, and other symptoms they are experiencing may be tied to the chemicals from the train crash. But this is all good, right? Everything is fine. There's nothing to worry about, right? Everybody's back in their homes. Governor Mike DeWine, he says, nothing to worry about.
There's no detection of contaminants, either outside or in the specific homes where they've been asked to monitor.
Okay, so they're testing and they don't see anything. Everything's fine. Thanks, Governor. It's all safe. Nothing to worry about. It reminds me of how they spoke to people in Flint, Michigan. Everything is fine. We're doing the testing. It's all safe and clear. Keep drinking your water. Nothing to worry about.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Yeah, we've seen this one millions of times at this point, right? Renowned 9/11 attorney Michael Barash, whose law firm represented over 25,000 members of the 9/11 community, said that the EPA insisting that the air is safe in Palestine sent shivers up his spine, given that clients of his are dying every single day from the 9/11 toxic dust. And he warned residents of the affected area to stay away and do not believe the EPA. So it's safe and it's not safe. Got it. We got more on this, including the companies that are doing the testing and the malfeasance that they've been involved in coming up right after the news, which happens now on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're looking at a couple of days of summer-like weather this week, mixed in with some off and on showers. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Stepping into a war zone, President Biden made an unannounced visit to Ukraine, and nearly a year after Russia invaded.
As the president spoke, in the east of the country, intense battles raging, especially around the key city of Bakhmut.
Unchecked aggression is a threat to all of us.
Russian forces are now engaged in intense street-to-street battles as the death toll rises on both sides.
In panel reporting, the president pledged another $500 million worth of aid to Ukraine. Right now in Nashville, News 2 says a court affidavit says a bullet went through a bathroom window, a bottle of shampoo, and a shower curtain and killed a woman inside the James Casey housing complex late last night. A 40-year-old man allegedly seen on video surveillance firing the shot from just outside his residence across from the victims is being held without bond on a criminal homicide charge. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP and the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
11:39 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello. It's Chris Hand. Happy President's Day. So I asked at the beginning of the show for people to text in their favorite worst president of all time. And we've been getting texts all day about the worst president, but I said it was hard mode. You can't say Joe Biden. So we've been getting some good texts like FDR, Lyndon Johnson, Woodrow Wilson, Federal Reserve stuff. You know what I mean? All those guys were terrible. But Wendy just cracked me up on the super text line. She said, Abraham Lincoln was the worst president. He died in office. It was so inconvenient. Don't do that. Yeah, he really
do that.
He really lost his head at the end there.
Gosh.
All right, so we were talking about the Palestine train derailment and how everything's fine and there is nothing to worry about. Move back into your home residence and start cleaning up the mess, right? Governor Mike DeWine said we got people on the ground and they're doing testing, and so far, it's all good. Let me get some audio, brother. So far, it's all good.
No detection of contaminants.
No detection.
Either outside or in the specific homes where they've been asked to monitor.
Okay, so only in the homes where they've been asked to monitor. So maybe a few of the homes and outside the specific areas they were asked to monitor. But everything's fine.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Yeah, we've all seen this one before, but I want you to know that there's some testing companies on the ground and they're doing hard work. They're testing everything to let you know how safe it is. And that there's two testing companies in particular that you need to know about. The first is Tetra Tech. The second is the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health. See, guys, two companies doing the testing. And two's better than one, right? It's all good. But wait, there's more. Both of these companies have a history of falsifying their own test results. Both of them. Not even kidding. Let's start with Tetra Tech. From 2017, the San Francisco Gate reports that two were sentenced for falsifying reports on soil samples at Hunters Point. Two former supervisors involved in the cleanup of radioactive contaminants at the old Hunter Point Naval Shipyard have pleaded guilty to falsifying soil samples in the widening environmental scandal that has engulfed San Francisco's largest redevelopment project. The guilty pleas were made in 2017 as part of a federal criminal investigation. So that's Tetra Tech. They literally had guys go to jail for falsifying samples 6 years ago. And they're on the ground in Ohio at the train derailment doing testing right now, saying everything's fine. How does a company that's falsified test results in the past get a contract to go test the soil in the present? I don't have any idea. The other company, the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health. Well, we're very familiar with them, actually, because their ineptitude was on full display in Middle Tennessee. They've made other high-profile mistakes in many spills, and a New York Times article from 2010 outlines that. The Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health has less than a stellar record. This is from 2010. The second company on the ground, Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health. A record of BP's Gulf worker testing firm raises conflict of interest questions. After 1 million gallons of oil spilled on a Louisiana town in 2005, after a flood of toxic coal ash smothered central Tennessee in 2008, you can tell it's a New York Times article because they said central Tennessee. That's not my wording. That's the failing New York Times. And after defective Chinese drywall began plaguing Florida, homeowners, the same firm was on the scene saying everything was fine. So the two testing companies with a history of falsifying results and misleading the public on a matter of safety are on the scene at the closest toxic event that we've had in America to a Chernobyl. And these two companies, Tetra Tech and the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, are saying, it's all good, baby. Nothing to worry about. Sure is strange. Does that make you feel comfortable? Doesn't make me feel comfortable. We've seen this before. The government comes in, says everything is fine. It's not. These chemicals were still seeping into the soil as these testers tested things and said it was all good. Erin Brockovich was on CBS over the weekend. Yes, the Erin Brockovich from the Julia Roberts movie. Erin Brockovich was on CBS over the weekend, and she says that this isn't on the up and up, and she's bringing receipts.
I am sitting here right now that just kind of came across my desk, a letter from the United States EPA dated February 10th, 2023, to Norfolk Southern Railroad. And it concerns me here a little because at the end of the first paragraph, they talk about cars containing vinyl chloride, the butyl acrylate, which has an additive that's benzene, and 3 other chemicals. And they go on to say that these chemicals are either known to have been or continue to be released to the air, surface soils, and surface water.
So as she said, by February 10th, officials are saying everything is fine externally, but internally, they're acknowledging that these train cars are still leaking. But it's safe, right, guys? Totally safe. Trust the government, right? Shouldn't we just trust the government? I don't know, man.
To answer your question, is it safe? There is so much confusion and so much information. And then reading something like this, I would tell you, I would certainly feel uncomfortable and not safe.
Yeah. I wouldn't feel comfortable or safe in East Palestine, Ohio right now. Would you? It is definitely not safe. And I wonder I wonder how much worse this truly is than these people are letting on. How can anyone in America, anyone in Ohio, trust these railroad companies, the government, or the EPA at this point? Record-breaking transparency, right?
Has the EPA been transparent about the initial testing data during a period when there may have been peak exposure?
Well, I'm going to question that now after what I just read about what was released and continues to be released. We have yet to see any raw, real data. I would like to see a website, a public website, because all the public should be informed about what it is they're testing for, what it is they may or may not have found, but none of us have been able to see or access that information.
And we should be able to see and access that information. Didn't the Biden regime say they would be the most transparent? I mean, I say that tongue in cheek. We all know they're not transparent. But why are these companies getting away with this? It's unbelievable. But there may be hope on the horizon. FEMA is coming. Does FEMA give anybody hope? FEMA wouldn't give me any hope, but maybe they'll give some hope. The weird thing is that FEMA conveniently waited until Trump announced he would be visiting before they decided to come in. And if FEMA's coming and it's safe, doesn't that kind of contradict itself? Here's what Aaron Brockovich said on FEMA's arrival, and is it too late?
Well, we're 2 weeks into this? By the time I get out there, we're pushing 3 weeks into this? So yeah, to answer your question, it could be late to the game. And again, another interesting conversation because they said a few days ago they wouldn't be coming. But yes, these people's houses could be full of these contaminants on the roof, in furniture, in the soot throughout the house, in the dust, all of that. And I think that they need to have safer housing. So again, quite a contradictory message. It's safe, but FEMA's coming. Are they going to give them housing? If it's safe, why do they have to move out of their house? And I've never in my 30-year career seen a situation unfold in front of all of us with such mismanagement and misinformation.
It is unreal, the mismanagement and misinformation that we're seeing coming out of the East Palestine train derailment. How are we supposed to trust these government officials with these less than stellar records on dealing with this kind of stuff? And on the same day that we're talking about this, Joe Biden goes to Ukraine and gives them another $500 million. Unreal. But the people in East Palestine, well, that's Trump country. You guys are on your own. Nobody's coming to save you. I hate to break it to you. And we all need to take accountability for ourselves here in Middle Tennessee and realize that if something like this happens close to us, nobody's coming to save us. We need to be proactive against this stuff because we're learning that the dollar is way more important than anybody's lives. And we're also learning that the railroad workers thought the length of the train was way too long before it even left the station. This is from the Republic Brief. Workers for Norfolk Southern are now admitting that they had concerns about the train's size before the accident, and that those concerns probably contributed to both the derailment and an earlier failure after the train left Illinois on February 1st. One employee tells the news source that we shouldn't be running trains that are 150 cars in length. It's highly probable the impacts of the derailment would have been avoided if the train hadn't been so heavy. The train might pose a safety danger, according to two employees who talked with Motherboard. The former director of the Federal Railroad Administration, Sarah Feinberg, agrees that the size of the train would have been a concern. She said, "I was not satisfied with the lengths of the trains. They were 80 or 90 cars long. The derailed train had 151 cars. Even while adding more cars might make trains more efficient overall for railroad firms, i.e. profits, it takes more time for staff to examine such a train and shorter inspection time. In the name of such efficiency and profit," I added the profit part, according to Jared Cassidy, National Legislative Director for one of the Norfolk Southern Workers Unions, made it likely that the car that derailed earlier this month hadn't been examined in some time. Nobody's going to come save you in the event of one of these emergencies. And while we're not investing in American infrastructure, we're investing in the Ukraine war, and we're ruining drinking water for millions. Cincinnati and northern Kentucky just shut off their intakes from the Ohio River for drinking water, and we're sending $500 million to Ukraine. Make it make sense to me. We need to get back to America first and fix the numerous problems that we have here in America, from the economy to the crumbling infrastructure, and we need to do it fast. The fact that we've sent billions to Ukraine and we still have these issues with trains derailing and mismanagement of funds is embarrassing. I'm Chris Hand. I'm in for Michael DelGirono. Thank you for hanging out with me today. It is 11:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. right. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right.
It's President's Day party music, courtesy of my amazing producer, Mac Maury.
You're welcome.
This puts you in a President's Day party mode. I feel like this is what they play when like the giant head presidents run around at the Sounds game, right?
100%.
Right?
Yes.
Is this what they play?
I hope so.
It's so good. All right, so we were talking about your favorite bad president, and we've been getting some great texts at 615-737-9986. So feel free to send in your favorite bad president. But before we do that, a super texter said she has a reason why Kamala Harris has been talking like that. So if you missed it, this was Kamala Harris at the Munich Security Conference over the weekend. Oh, Mac, audio. Come on, Mac. You play that awesome President's Day music, and then
I know, and I don't follow up.
Then you muff the punt. All right, so here's Kamala Harris over the weekend.
In the face of these indisputable facts, to all of us here in Munich, let us renew.
So I'm going to stop it there because that's not important. But what the super texter said is that the reason Kamala is reading like that so slowly is because they've had to slow all the teleprompters to a crawl for Joe Biden, and they forgot to speed him back up for her. Hilarious. Some of your worst favorite presidents, Buchanan said he paved the way for the Civil War. Again, one of my super texters said Lincoln was the worst because he died in office, and that's not a good look. So everybody seems to think that Trump, Reagan, those are the best presidents of all time, and I've gotten probably 150 texts about Obama being the worst president. Fair, balanced, and accountable. That's what we're doing here at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right. El Presidente Biden is the worst. There's so many good ones. Lyndon Johnson is the worst president. FDR is the worst president. Somebody said Kamala Harris sounds like Christopher Walken in that speech. So good. Thank you again for joining me today. You can watch the show live on Super Talk TV on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, anywhere where you're streaming. You can find us also 99.7 WTN. Again, the Super Text line is going crazy over the worst presidents of all time. Somebody said you can't say Biden. That's the hard mode. But this is Obama's third term. So Obama is the worst president of all time. And with that, I think that's pretty much the nail in the coffin on the worst president. I think it's Obama, Woodrow Wilson, FDR, Lyndon Johnson, Buchanan. Terrible presidents. Thank you for hanging out with me today. It's Chris Hand in for Michael DelGirono. Pamela Furr is on her way in next, and you can hit her up at 615-737-9986. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.